I've always loved superheroes. I'm a big fan of superheroes. I think superheroes are the greatest kind of characters to write, hear, read or watch about. And I'd like to take you through a journey of my experiences of superheroes. There are lots of them. I will not mention all of them, but 10, 12 superheroes or superhero stories that I've loved. I'll take you through a journey and hope you enjoy it. I used to have what is known as a takht, घर में दीवान बोलते हैं उसको. So I used to put two pillows. I used to take a plate, a steel plate, put it as if it was the steering wheel. I used to wear the blue tights my sister used to have when she was in school quietly. I still remember a red swimming costume which my aunt had given from London, which is prized possession because it was like the red underwear of Superman. I used to wear that. I used to wear my school socks, the winter socks, up to here so they looked like boots. And I used to tie a red towel. And whole day long, I used to be half Superman in Batmobile going and saving the world. I used to jump around, so I used to box them. I used to put faces on them, put a hat on top of them or a cap, and used to think of it as the Riddler, or I used to think of it as Lothar, or I used to think of it, I used to talk, okay, don't worry, we are reaching there. Batman is on the way, and Superman is coming flying, and I used to jump. Whole day, for hours I used to play. Hours, I remember. And I remember my mom and all would come and, give me the food. They were working, my parents were both working. So they would come and, in between, I would even open the door of the Batmobile and get out and eat my food. And even the food was that Bruce Wayne has gone out for dinner and, he's sitting in a rich restaurant. As a matter of fact, let me be very honest, when I was shooting Ravan, all the bits that I do, I still feel I'm doing exactly the same thing on my divan in Rajendra Nagar and keeping the comic and reading out the whole story and following it like Batman and Superman. I even used to write on a white banyan because you couldn't spoil anything else, and S. And I was very proud that my name is Shahrukh for S and Superman for S. So I used to write it in the triangle and roam around. Yeah, so my tryst with or relationship with superheroes is from the age of 7, 8, I think. Yeah, I love superheroes. I'm completely intrigued by this quality of being so selfless, being so strong, muscular, tough, and handsome. So yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to grow up and be. But comics, I think, are the first thing that completely intrigued me into superheroes. There were these small shops in Rajendra Nagar, Patel Nagar, very small shops where you went and rented comics. And they used to have these DC comics and Marvel comics, where of course there was Superman, who is the ultimate superhero. The first one coming from Krypton and Lois Lane and Lothar or Lothar, how do you pronounce it? And his boss in the newspaper, Daily Planet. So all that was in Metropolis. So these were images, and I loved Superman and Batman for the quality and the darkness with which they, Batman especially, with which they treated, and Spider-Man was also, Spider-Man I didn't like, he had too many personal problems, and then there was no face. But always I imagined Batman to be this really handsome man, playboy, Bruce Wayne, rich mansion, cool car. And, at night he was the vigilante or the dark crusader or the prince of darkness. Till date, I like the fact that a lot of my friends call me Batman because I keep awake at night. I have this silly, childish notion that I am Batman. And I'm hoping one day that a light will come outside my house which has a bat on it and I'll fly out to save the world. In Indian context, there was Sabu from Chacha Chaudhary and of course Bahadur, who I think is the genuine first superhero in a small town, made a gun out of after his father's death from a cycle. From the pieces of a cycle, and he had a gun, and there was his counterpart girlfriend Bela. So Bahadur and Bela, which is written by Mr. Surti. Fantastic comics. And then the movies followed, Indian and some foreign ones. The foreign ones, I got to see them much later. I might have seen an English TV show called Batman and Robin, which even comes on TV even now sometimes on some channels. And it was now when you see it, it's like the Batman has a paunch and, they're like really very strange. Let's go there. Robin, yeah, it's very odd. Cartoons were not available, but comics, I think, are the first thing that completely intrigued me into superheroes. Movies actually became a part and parcel of my life for two reasons. One, I was very bad at Hindi, and my mother told me that if I get 10 on 10 in a spelling test in class 1, I would be taken to a movie theater and shown a movie. The first movie I saw was called Joshila, which I found out recently that Mr. Yash Chopra had directed. And I was so thrilled. I got 10 on 10. And I will admit that the last answer, I cheated. I never told my mom. So, Mom, please forgive me. Now that I'm a superhero, I can't lie. And post that, the VCR, when it came into being, we were not very rich. So we got the VCR much later than most of the people. We used to have the black and white TV where, you know, you kind of did something and it became some strange colors. But my mom was a movie freak. She used to come working after my father died. So this is at the age of 15, you know, 14, 15. Mom would come back, I would press her feet, and we would watch a movie. And Mom watched all kinds of movies. I mean, my mom was, I don't know, I didn't realize this till I was 15 that my mother was a movie freak. And we used to keep, me and my sister used to press her feet, and we used to watch movies. She, of course, loved Biswajit. But there were days when we got like really strange and different movies. So the first superhero movie that I saw in black and white, and I hope it's available so that I can put it on air, is a movie called Paras Money. And I think the actor, the gentleman, was called Mahipal. And of course, superhero movies are the same. There's a bad guy who will take the heroine, and it had the Spider-Man's web, it had a den, and then you have to go and save the lady. And Mahipal used to fly, and there was this big bakri, you know, everything was gigantic, awesome. It left a huge impression in my mind. And I remember when they used to box and all, you know, earlier times when you hit a guy, he used to do a somersault and fall. So even now, as a matter of fact, 20 years into films, when I fall, I still do a somersault because of Mr. Mahipal. Because, you know, Hollywood films are not available. Maybe only in Chanakya we saw Star Wars, the first film, or Roger Moore's Moonraker, which James Bond himself, I think, is a superhero in his own way. So yeah, that must have impressed me. But the first film, in Indian context, I think would be Paras Money. The second one that I remember vaguely because of my mom again was Fearless Nadia. Well physiqued, well toned, and looked really cool. I think so. The second one would be Fearless Nadia as a superhero or a heroine. The other third film that I would put in that category would be, it's a little off, and I may be mistaken, but I think Aan, with Dilip Saab in it. Dilip Saab did that post Devdas. He was a little overwhelmed by having done Devdas, and he wanted to do something completely he's not done. So he did this, what are in Hollywood known as B films, you know, and a cool action film where the hero just is a swashbuckling sword fighter or gun-toting Western, saving the heroine and beating up the bad guy. I think it was set in more Rajput times, but in my opinion, it would be 100% like a Indian way of looking at a superhero film. At that point, when I'd seen these films, I think by the time I was able to see even Superman, the first Superman, with Christopher Reeve in it. And the irony of it all, that Superman finally succumbed to a spinal injury. You know, to me, it's one of the saddest, strangest, tragic story of Superman. There has been a curse on playing Superman, by the way. Whoever participates in Superman apparently does not fare very well in personal life. I think the Lois Lane lady, I forget which actor had played it, she was just recently found somewhere not well and on the streets, as a matter of fact, I read. So it's a curse. If you do Superman, things go wrong for everyone. But I think, you know, Christopher Reeve, with that little, I remember I used to take this on my hair and stick it here like this, and I used to be very proud if sometimes my father or mother noticed and said, "Hey, beta, baal aise?" So I used to be, yeah, it's on its own. Naturally, my hair is like that. It's I'm not doing it, you know. I'm kind of Superman hair, and it was fantastic. Whether he flew with his cape, I think 200 or 500 miles an hour, but this never went. It never flew back. It always was here and not moving. And I like the fact that he carried the girl onto the terrace with this gentleness, which I've copied. When I say copied, it's not like I've taken the scene, but there was a portion where I want to carry Kareena, and I kept on telling my director and VFX, there's one shot, very gently, you should come and put the girl down. Of course, it's very difficult to carry a girl like this and come down, so I had to wire her up and all. But for me, it's one of the greatest images that I have in my life of superheroes is blue Superman with the red cape and this lady in his arms. And that's why even the poster of my film, which people feel I've copied from Batman, no, it's from this imagery actually. He just comes very gently. His toes touch like a ballerina. And he stops and turns around. He doesn't face the camera too long. He just faces and puts it down like this. And Superman always used to fly wait for a second, and boom. I like this whole idea. So even when now I'm posing as a superhero, I always do that. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. Post that, I think, apart from Superman, modern times, the film that turned me on the most, and I recently met Amit for KBC and I told him, was Shahenshah. When he came out as Shahenshah, it was like first day, first show in Upar Cinema. And I told my mom, we have to, and my mom wanted to see it, and we bought the tickets in black, and we went to see Shahenshah. And I like the fact his hair was also a little disheveled at night. And if my memory doesn't fail me, I think it was one of the first films I asked Amit also, which I think Jawan co-wrote, or the story ideas does. So which was even, it's quite cooler, you know, because Jawan doesn't seem like the person who would write a superhero film. I love the way he used to stop this. He just told me this was 16 kgs, the metal glove that he had with which he stopped bullets. He used to go, and he used to always say, "Rishte mein to hum tumhare baap lagte hain, naam hai Shahenshah." And from somewhere behind, Shahenshah, Shahenshah. I thought it was very, very cool. That was the first true blue superhero film of our time. The biggest superhero story in India is either the Ramayan or the Mahabharata. There is a bow and arrow of Ramji, there's the Gada of Hanumanji, and with their funny and strange arrows just flying. But I used to be wrapped like that. I used to sit on TV. In the morning it used to come, 12 o'clock, Sundays. It was awesome, I think, the superheroes in it. The chariots used to fly. So it's exactly like X-Men, a family which has superpowers, another family, like in Mahabharata, another superpowers. Some is a little dark, and the eyes used to throw things, and they could burn people, and they could carry the mountains. So I think the greatest superhero storytelling or story in India is Ramayan and Mahabharata. But I think it's important that the youngsters in our country have the superheroes in new bottles. They need to be in a new garb, in a new guise. So, like for example, in my film, Raman doesn't have 10 heads, but he's made with 10 of the worst thoughts in the world. Genghis Khan, Charles Manson, Napoleon, Hitler. Debatable if these guys are all bad in the larger context of things, but just generically speaking, they're made out of 10 bad thoughts, not 10 heads. So I think that is the modern way of presenting Ravan, who comes out from the digital world, who comes out from the computer world. So his Lanka is not a land or a jazeera, as in all films it used to be, but it is a world we have created around us. The next film in Indian context is, maybe it did not become a very big hit, but the 3D technology had come in, and we all remember Chhota Chetan. And still is the only 3D film we've had, like Star Avatar, Chhota Chetan. And I think right after that, there was another film made with Jaggu Dada, with Mr. Jackie Shroff. It was called Shiva Ka Insaf. Again, he had a cape, he used to fly, he used to have boots. And again, a similar thought that in the day, I think he was just a normal guy. And at night, he would go and be a vigilante or a crusader and catch all the bad guys and kick their butt and beat the hell out of them and bring them to justice. And of course, he had a love interest who he would sing songs with, as it would. I think we are the only country in the world where the superheroes will sing songs and dance. So Shiva Ka Insaf I would genuinely include as a superhero film. I don't know if Ghazab would fall in the same category, but this one brother dies, the sad guy dies, and he goes into this other brother and becomes really tough, muscles come out. Outstanding shot in that film, where like the Hulk, he catches pillars and the muscles come out of the shot. I wanted to do that in Ravan, at one time, but I don't have muscles, so it didn't work out like that. The next film that I would mention is true blue superhero film, completely honest, and I think one of the most fantastic films India has ever produced is Mr. India. Shekhar Kapoor's film with Anil and Sridevi ji. I think superb film. All the songs, Kaate Nahi Karte, had all the makings and everything of a Hindi commercial film. And for superhero films to succeed, I think as Alfred Hitchcock has said, the villain has to be the strongest part. And I mean, you can't forget Mogambo, Khushua. That's like part and parcel of our culture now. Every kid has to know that Mogambo, Khushua. And the Invisible Man, you know, would just come and I like, there's one very sweet shot in it when I think Shindevi is dancing and when she hugs him, I think they've done it against a glass. So whole sari and all gets stuck to her body, which is quite sensual, but it's him hugging. So that was one superhero film, I think, which will stand the test of time. You can see it again. I think these 5-6 films that I mentioned would figure as my top films till such time that I joined film industry myself. I was really taken in by these films. Mr. India I must have seen 3-4 times. Shahrukh, I know every word, every dialogue of the film. And Paras Mani has an impression. Superman, of course. Batman, James Bond. I keep saying I'd love to play Bond because I think he's also a life superhero, because what is good about Bond is that he can be jumping through fire, jump from a plane, the hair is always in place. Just recently with Pierce Brosnan they started changing it, but Sean Connery and Roger Moore, they were so elegant, nothing changed. My name is Bond, James Bond. And they remained exactly the same, the clothes were all right, they made love to beautiful women. So I think even James Bond films would also be, with Dr. No, the bad guy, you know, the evil odd job, you know, with his hat coming out, strange weapons, and always trying to save the world. After I joined the film industry, I think 2 or 3 films which have really impressed me. One is, of course, Krish. Fantastic action by, I think, Ching or Ping, who did Crouching Tiger. For Rakesh Roshan ji, who I think genuinely is the most advanced director as far as, and very attached to the earthiness of Hindi film storytelling. I think the nicest director to have actually made that film, because somehow he made, in our times, to everyone across the nation, a superhero parody. Of course, he made Koi Mil Gaya from before that, and the insemination of Koi Mil Gaya and producing this super kid, very well explained, running with the horses, living with the nature, flying, and slowly introducing and using technology, which was really, really far advanced for our times, and fantastic jumps, fantastic leaps, those car chases in Singapore, fantastic. I think Krish was brilliant. Just the latest one, and I'm also personally indebted as an actor, as a producer. I think Rajnikant sir and Shankar Saab's Robot. Very interesting that you have this super-powered robot made by the hero who's meek and sweet and a scientist, and then he gets these, for the sake of love, you know, he goes completely out of hand and has the superpowers, can become a snake, can become you know, a dragon, and become 1,000 pieces, and is going to destroy the world. So I think Robot, in terms of effects also, I think very, very high class. In terms of you know, stature, because of Rajni sir, fantastic. I think, you know, when he just comes out and, you know, when he cuts himself, there's a cut, and he cuts himself and stands, cuts the other guy's hand. And there's a strange innocence in the meanness of this robot who's going slowly mad because of the red chip. You know, there's one scene, explains, he runs faster, he speaks all languages, now go have a good time. And he flies, and he jumps, and he does everything on the train. I think it's really awesome, really, really awesome. I think Robot is really the modern day latest superhero film, if I may call it that, or super villain, or just a super character film. I think it's a fantastic film, and I'm really, I'll take this opportunity to say that I have the same superhero in Ravan. You know, Chitti comes out in the film because I was so impressed by that film. There was a time I think I was supposed to do it. I couldn't because of paucity of time, but I really wanted my superhero, when he comes into the real world from the virtual world, from the computer, the first person to see, I find it comic irony that, you know, he should walk in and who he sees first is Chitti, who's also, so 2 machines, so this one from the virtual world made of pixels, and this one made out of more mechanical parts. They meet and he says, who's this? And the heroine tells him that, you know, our first superhero, the coolest superhero. So I really feel Chitti is the superhero number 1. I won't end without mentioning that my latest and the finest superhero collection, which I go back to Ramayan, is X-Men. A big Hugh Jackman fan. He came over to the house, and my kids and me were just, and he's really big, not as hairy as he's in the film. He's really good looking and really gentle and sweet. I spent some time with him. He danced to Indian songs. But X-Men with Hugh Jackman and all the characters, you know, Cyclops, and Wolverine, and what they do, and especially the new one they've done, First Class, right? That is fantastic because it's a prequel, and you want to go back and see all those films again because you find this so interesting. I think Ravan and Jawan is an excuse that my children wanted me to make this film. Is the child in me which wanted to make this film. Is the child who, I think from the day I was 5, 6 years old, or maybe as soon as I was born, you know, in my red cape from Krypton, I always wanted to be a superhero. So I remember when my son was born, the only gift I put on his crib was a Batman and a Superman hanging like that. Fantastic dolls, which I've made for even Jawan now. Fantastic dolls. They're both standing. I still have them. That's the only gift I got for my son. And it's so silly. The pink crib that I had for my daughter, I again hung the Batman and Superman like that. They're both there, and they are in this room somewhere. And I really wanted them to understand Batman and Superman. The first comics I bought them, movies, cartoons I showed them, though they were, you know, just dribbling and sitting there. They don't even know they want to watch Disney. But I think I always wanted to be a superhero or be a part of writing a superhero story or a film. And yeah, so I've used my children as an excuse. And the investment in Ravan is the investment of my childhood. It's the same kid who had this plate with a towel and the red underwear and blue stockings of my sister. Maybe that's why the suit of Jawan is still blue. And while doing those shots, every time, you know, when I'm jumping or flying, I keep on reliving the moment I used to do that in my small little house in Rajendra Nagar. So I think from childhood, I've always wanted to be a superhero. And I'm glad I've done it. You know, you only live once. You have the opportunity to do it. And I think it's for the best that I have lived my dream. You know, they say boys remain boys, only what changes is the price of the toys. So this is an expensive toy I bought using the excuse of my children. And I hope everybody enjoys playing with the toy.